Hi, Helen. Welcome back. We talked um, this time last year, and you were sort of not sure whether Tokyo was going to go ahead with COVID. But Tokyo certainly put fabulous. They were amazing. Um, so it's your sixth Olympics, and you were
Yeah.
over there as the chief eventing steward. Um, Now tell us how you found it over there, and compared to other Olympics that you've been to?
Uh, well, for a start off, it was the compliance to get there, which was a bit of a worry. Um, of course, coming from here, it wasn't really concerned as to whether you're going to test positive or negative, but it was just doing all the tests and everything you had to do to get in there, which was when you don't deal with that sort of thing every day, that was quite nerve-wracking. So that was the start. But once we got there, I mean, it was much as any other event, other than the layer at the COVID compliance layer. So that felt good to be in something that was relatively normal and familiar, and to catch up with people from all over the world that we haven't been able to see for so long. I mean, it was quite extraordinary, really.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did you actually stay in the Olympic Village or
No, all the officials were accommodated in hotels, and where I was in a hotel called the XL, which was where the bus left every morning, which was right in the middle. It was at Shinobaya, it was above the zebra crossing thing that's world famous. So it was quite extraordinary seeing all that. The others that were staying in another hotel nearby used our bus, and they had to walk across that crossing every day, but there was certainly no contact or stopping and no going to shops. Um, but the whole thing was a little bit weird because we weren't allowed to use the cafe or the restaurants. We had to eat in our own room. Well, not in our room, but in a specific room that had clear shields up, and was very compliant anyway. So, but anyway, I mean, normally you go to the venue, you come home, you're too tired anyway. So it wasn't much different from any other games, really.
yeah, and did you get to watch many of the events or see the riders or anything?
Yeah, well, you're seeing all the riders and the horses all the time because we're dealing with the horses when they're not on field of play. So, which is 24-hour a day. I mean, not me personally, but the stewarding team. So we're behind the scenes seeing these horses and riders training and in the stables all the time. So, I mean, that's a real treat. And then we also get to um, provide the passage for them to get into the field of play. So competing, we're dealing with them right up to when they go in the main ring, and then also when they come out. Outside of eventing, I was able to watch the freestyle finals in the dressage,
Yeah.
and I also got to watch the individual jumping, which was amazing. I mean, the
Mm.
tracks, and we got to walk the tracks and show jump tracks, and the jumps were amazing. They were so exquisite. So, but over the eventing time, I mean, it was just extraordinarily busy with the two sessions, the morning and evening, and also changing venues. The whole logistics of that was massive and really busy. But we got there.
So you were specifically there for the eventing. That was at Sea Forest. So so you had to organise all the horses to move over to there for the cross country.
Well, yes, Pedens, which is a transport company, they organise the actual movement of the horses, and they are amazing. They organise them, their flights, they organise all the transport, and they run like clockwork, to the minute, really. They also organise, which was extraordinary, on the way home. On the way, the planes with the horses leaving Europe had come through Dubai. I think they're on an Emirates plane, but on the way home, through Isabel Worth knowing somebody through an owner and somebody who knew a Russian, they changed the airspace availability, and all of a sudden the horses were going to fly 7 hours shorter on the way home than on the way over, which was quite extraordinary. And it was announced at a meeting with Pedans, and how that happened, I mean, it's hard for us in New Zealand to believe, or Australia, that anybody's got enough power to organise airspace for planes to fly through, but they did. So that was a lovely little story.
Yeah, and I heard that on the news. Apparently she knew, or someone knew, President Putin or something.
Yeah, somebody's ex-wife, something or other, and anyway, it didn't really matter as long as it worked.
Yeah, no, it's definitely amazing. And the cross country looked magnificent. So what were you sort of like coordinating everyone on cross country day, or?
Yes, it was. It's quite an interesting job. I've been out a couple of times before during the week, and we had to get the horse was stable there the night before cross country. So once they'd finished that third session of dressage, they were trucked to Sea Forest, and there was extra stables put there, which were also air conditioned and comfortable, but more temporary. And then we had to supervise the team, a hacking and gallop area, a warm up and jumping area, and also the stables. So I had people that had been at the test event that knew what was going on and where the hacking and gallop was, which was actually right through the middle of the cross country out to an area that was had been prepared for the cross country, but when they shortened it, it became available to gallop. So on that Saturday that we moved over there, we had horses going out hacking and galloping straight away and grazing. And then 3 of us actually stayed the night at Sea Forest. It was like a little camping trip. But there was also 3 night stewards who stay up all night to care for the horses. So it was quite a treat being out there, but it also meant we were on deck in the morning because the stables opened at 4:30, and the hacking and galloping was available again. But this was all before the cross country start at 7:45. So we'd done half a day's work before the cross country started. And when the cross country was on, I was actually in control, which sounds like it was banks of TV screens, but you really haven't got time to watch things specifically, because we're keeping the controller of the cross country informed of where the horses are in the flow, and when there's any delays, you have to feed back to the warm-up area the delay time. You might get called by the stewards. Somebody needed medical attention at the finish. I think it was a groom or something. So there was lots going on, and you're that link between getting the horses to and from the start, and so if there's any delays, passing it down the line. So it was quite hectic, but it didn't last very long. It was all over very quickly, the cross country. And then, of course, we had to turn around and ship all the horses back and get back to EQP, they call it, which is Badger Cohen, the main equestrian centre. And there was then reserve horses that hadn't been used that needed to be able to canter and work and stuff. So we had to keep going with other things. And there was always constant shift to keep meetings and other things going on. So it was a great learning curve, and it was quite busy at the time.
No, it looked fantastic. And even, like, because we saw how Andrew Hoy had been held because a rider had fallen off or something had happened on course, and then he was able to...
The fastest moving thing on the course at that moment was Shane running over to go and give him a hand. If you watch the video, there's this yellow thing running faster than any horse on course to go and give a hand. But yeah, they had on course, they had cooling tents, which had fans and the cold water and stuff, to keep the horses, as well prepped and looked after as possible. So there was a lot of work and preparation went into sorting all that out beforehand, and checking it all, and I mean, it made it quite easy. I mean, the atmosphere without the crowd was still like a normal event, because there was still all the people, you know, the officials, but the grooms and the team management. So it was quite like a normal event, apart from there being big crowds in the stands, because even with a crowd, there wouldn't have been any more people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure where the big crowds would have gone on cross country day. That would have made it much more difficult. So it probably made our job a little bit easier. But it was such a shame that the Japanese people couldn't enjoy it, because goodness, they did so much work and did a good job.
Yeah. No, it was a shame, but I mean, at least they kept COVID out and they kept running.
Nobody else could have organised it. They were so well organised with things, you know, and so compliant with. We did daily saliva tests, and you know, they go away and get tested, and the buses were always on time, as they are in Japan. We had quite a good contingent of Japanese in the Steward's crew, and you could tell, I mean, they were so proud of what they'd done as a country, but it was such a shame that you know, the locals missed out being able to enjoy coming and watching and stuff.
Yeah, and they're such a polite race of people. We used to have Japanese students coming and staying, and all the little girls used to bring us presents, and we'd make origami, and yeah, it was wonderful.
There was an entrance into the building where our offices were, and it was manned with volunteers, and every morning they'd done lots of little origami horses and really intricate things. They're very clever. But it was interesting because we had some locals on our team, and they were amazing when it came to organising things. When we got to see Forest, there was a gateway that was it had security on it, but you know, if a loose horse had got out there, you know, we wanted to make it more secure, and you sent some of our team out, and wow, could they whip things into shape quickly. You know, they were very, very quiet and compliant with us, but when it came to getting action, they could crack the whip as well. They were great. It really good.
Yeah. I've got some photos that I'll share.
Right.
I'll just put those on now. A minute. Where are we?
Oh yeah. Actually, that's the whole team of stewards. I think there was 56 or something, but we came from 38 countries, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, that's and here's one of yourself.
Oh, that's our friend Libby Law took that. She's amazing. Chris, who's an Australian vet, and I think Tim Hadaway, who's the eventing person in the FEI. But no, Libby catches photos when you're not looking, they're the best ones to have, mainly.
Oh, here we go. I've got it better now, yeah. That was another one that Libby's taken as well.
That must have been, because we're not in our smart uniform, so that must have been an arena familiarisation, which we had to organise. We had one session under lights and one in daytime, and to make it fair at the chef to keep meeting, we actually drew for slots, because some were getting very late times and some were going to have it early when the floodlights weren't on so much. But yeah, that's the Aussies. I can see Karen Tinney and yeah, Will Enzinger. He's a local to you in Melbourne, actually. He was the chef to keep for the Aussies. He's in the middle there.
Ah, yes,
and
I see him.
Yeah, so no, they had a really good crowd. The Aussies are very supportive people, and they seem to always have the biggest contingent. The ringmaster always had the biggest problem with them because there are loads of them.
Yeah. And that is a ring familiarisation. Is that dressage, or is that the eventing dressage?
No, this is eventing dressage, I would say. But it's they have 10 minutes around the outside and 10 minutes in the arena as teams. So yeah, that's part of the familiarisation. It was obviously under lights, so
Yeah.
It's got eventing things written on the top, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is all the eventing stewards.
Oh gosh, that looks too tidy to be eventing stewards. That might be the jumping ones, which actually there was a lot of interaction, and with eventing is normally first, but because the rowing venue shared with Sea Forest, we actually went in the middle. So we were able to use dressage and jumping stewards from either side, and the teams worked really well together. There were a lot of multi-discipline people, but they looked tidy. So I would suggest the eventing ones are more tired looking. So I would suggest that photo is probably a jumping night.
Oh, okay.
I'm just guessing, but yeah,
And we
look as tidy as that.
And they're the cooling rooms in the background.
This is the final warm-up. So the dressage arena's there, and on familiarization, the teams had 10 in that, 10 outside the main dressage ring, and then 10 in it. For the actual competition for dressage, they had the test. I think there was 6 minutes of test, so they had 12 minutes in that, and then 1 minute to get to the arena, and then another 6 in there. So there were 2 in that final warm-up all the time. And then for the jumping in the final warm-up, it was there was an oxer and an upright, and it was the last 2 before they went into the main arena. So it was always one feeding out and one feeding in. And when they came out, they had to go to those tents. The one on the left had ice and fans and stuff, or bit checks and boot checks and stuff.
Yeah.
They had a thermal thing on the horses, and it's pretty good. But if there's anything elevated, they'd be told to rapidly cool. But most of the teams are well practiced in that anyway. So
what was the sort of temperatures over there when you were there?
Well, actually, it went up. By the time the jumping was on, it actually got higher. I mean, we were probably a little bit lucky with the eventing, but it was the humidity combined with the temperatures, and it was probably 35 around that each day. But it's the wet bulb index, which is the combination of the two. This was the stewards having a briefing that was early on in the day, in the time they were there. But everybody was really good at mask wearing and the distancing thing, and we just had to be, really, because being officials, there was a few in the crowd that once they sat in the stands, they sort of took their masks down and had to be reminded. But that really wasn't our task, because our task was the horses, not the spectators and things.
Here's the oregano here.
Yeah, a lot of the girls would take one every day. I got one, but they're quite amazing, aren't they?
Very clever.
No, they're good.
Yeah. Here's your desk.
Oh, what a tip. Yes, gosh, that's a good photo to have, actually, because it seems so familiar, and there was a lot of planning. Like each day you had these plans for the arenas, and the colours of the discipline. Eventing was green, jumping red, and dressage blue. And what was started very blue each day turned to green and then turned to red. So we started the day doing that, and then we had to put the people in positions at stables or warm-ups or on practice arenas. And of course, eventers want everything. They want dressage and jumping and the gallop track and school all the time. So eventers are challenging, but we love it. It's got my husband on it as well. Anyway.
Looks like the bus on the way home. So you have your own bubble?
We had our own bubble. The buses did get quite crowded, but I mean, everybody was vaccinated and everybody was tested every day. So I'm going venue to hotel, so it was quite crowded, but it felt safe, and I don't think there's any comeback from any tests that weren't good. So it must have worked.
Oh, great. Yeah. And this is this square
Yes,
you were talking about.
this is actually from our hotel. And on the lift, I was on the 16th floor, looking across. There's another mark on the far side, and another group had to walk from our house there and to their hotel, which they had to do morning and night, or before their shift and afterwards. But that was as busy as it got, considering that this is normally the busiest place in Japan. They were on a semi-quiet time, so it wasn't like it usually is, crazy. So yeah.
It's such a shame you didn't get to travel around and see the other sites.
Well, yeah, it is, but I mean, normally, well, in Rio, I'd already been there, so I didn't need to travel, and I've been to Japan a lot judging.
Okay.
So when you go to work at the Olympics, the last thing you really should try and factor in is traveling. That was interesting, wasn't it? It was a one-seater little car. But I'm not quite sure if it's how it was, but it was a little car. So yeah, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work for us that have got a 60k drive to town anyway.
Yeah. Was it electric?
Oh, no doubt. But
yeah,
it'd be no good in New Zealand because we haven't got enough power to even run the country at the moment. So we don't want too many electric cars.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that was fun. That's what they call inside the gallop, which is the grazing, and that was the cross-country practice area. The gallop track was on the outside, and just to the right was Arena C, which was a big arena with jumps and things.
Yeah, so that's the gallop track, and then the other.
And you can see the older surface, and then they put the new felt and sand on the inside track. But they watered and groomed this continually, and there was a team that test the footing and put a report out each day of all the areas on the venue. You know, and it's obviously very important. So yeah. So that was cool. So that's the view from. Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So is it like it's a reclaimed Sea Forest is a reclaimed island?
I don't think it's reclaimed. It's been built from rubbish. So I'm not quite sure how they did it. I probably need to Google it, but it's certainly its dimensions are very, what's the word, geometric. So I don't think it's natural. It's been built, and the straight waterway where the rowing and things were is on the other side from where we're looking now.
Yeah, and
it's also straight that it has to be man-made. But it's grown in the 2 years since we were there for the test event. It's grown like mad. So all this foliage, and it's beautiful, and it's going to be turned into a park. So that's nice. Lovely. And I think all the cross-country jumps will go to the 3 venues, Badger Cone, which is EQP, Mickey and Yamanashi. So it'll be, I think, Northern Farm too. So at least everything will still be used. But the venue at Badger Cone is just amazing now with the stables. Oh, here we go. These are them hacking.
That's just practice fences there.
Yes, they're practice cross-country fences, and then you can book for cross-country schooling time. So yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, well, I couldn't really show this till the end because as a steward, we've got to be very. I mean, when you've got friends from all over, you've got photos to share afterwards. But boys, well,
yeah, lovely.
Yes.
And this is another one Libby Laws shared with you.
Libby sent that. She had an automatic camera actually on the rescue photos. I happened to be sitting in the blue watching because, of course, that job, but I got to stay because New Zealand had 3 charter flights back with all their elites and officials. So I got to fly back on a second charter flight. So I had a few days to wait. So I was able to watch the jumping and the trot up and things. So that was really cool. So yeah, I'm watching a trot up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the flowers looked amazing on the show jumping. But they weren't real, were they?
No, most of them weren't, although I must say some at the bottom looked quite real, but most of them were false, but they were very, very good false ones. And the blossoms, of course, they wouldn't have lasted 2 minutes in that heat. And
yeah,
yeah, that photo, I didn't know that photo had been taken. That was Jerry, a guy from Hong Kong who lives in Canada. He took that, and yeah, it's nice to have those photos that you didn't know. And that was arena familiarization under light. So we were working and standing around in the main arena. Yeah. Cool.
so that was you back in 2019, or the stewards.
That was great. All those guys, they're all the Japanese crew. Well, there's a couple of extras came. One of them got pinched, Hiro in the middle. He got pinched for the MCP testing. Tom's from Thailand, and Sherwin's from the Philippines. And then Lawrence is from Guatemala, and Susan's another New Zealander. So, but all those guys were on the crew for this time. So they were a lot of the mainstays, because they'd actually been to the test events, so knew the ropes, which was really good.
Yeah. So are you planning on going to Paris in 2024?
I'm not planning. Actually, it's only 3 years, isn't it? No, I mean, you usually for previous Olympics you apply as a volunteer, and and then it sort of progresses until you get a job. I mean, we get our flights paid for and our accommodation and stuff. But I haven't really. Now's not quite the right time to ask. I haven't quite recovered yet.
But what about the World Equestrian Games next year? Because you've been to all of those as well.
Yes, well, eventing's actually in Italy with the driving, but I mean it's so tricky with the travel, but we'll see. I mean, a lot depends on whether the FEI ask you too, because the FEI pick who they want for some of the roles. So
yes.
And they're probably realistically not going to pick somebody from Australia or New Zealand, because we're quite a pain with the quarantine and stuff. So, who knows? I mean, it's hard with the COVID and the travel to think beyond this year. I mean, one of our riders has come back to New Zealand, and she was hoping that she could have gone to. She wasn't needed as the reserve, and she was hoping to have gone to Aachen, but there was the uncertainty of whether she'd get a start there, but also she couldn't get managed isolation booked before Christmas to get home. So she had to take a spot now. So it's really tricky at the moment to
Yeah, it is. But even yeah,
it is. But we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. So you'd be looking forward to, you're in quarantine in Christchurch at the moment, so you'd be looking forward to coming home?
I am looking forward to coming home. I think there's probably a bit more snow around than in that picture right at the moment. It'll be down to the bush line. You're from Christchurch, aren't you? So you'll know it was the day we came in, it was way down the foothills and all over the Port Hills. So
wow.
The last 2 days have been lovely. And my son and daughter-in-law came with the kids. They're up visiting in Christchurch, so they stood in the car park and waved to me, which was quite funny. But
what hotel are you staying in Christchurch?
We're at the Novotel at the airport, so it's quite good because there's a lot going on to see out of the window. It'd be quite boring looking at the backside of a fence or something, but
yes,
quite a lot going on. And yesterday we were allowed out for our hours exercise or outside for fresh air. So that was quite exciting. But yeah, we're only day 4 of 14, so we've got to just keep on trucking, get a bit done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, great. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, you've given us a lot of information. It just looked fabulous on TV. We were so lucky.
It's getting better every day. It's you don't remember all the things when it was so hot and such hard work. You only remember all the good stuff.
Yeah, I know. Look, it just looked fabulous. We were really lucky in Australia with 7+. We saw everything, like
I think New
whole,
Zealand's been the same as well. I think
yeah,
the camp's been outstanding, and I think the whole games has given people, a real bright spot to focus on in this funny old time. But
yeah,
honestly, I don't think any other country could have organized things as well as the Japanese. They've been amazing. They've just been amazing.
yeah.
So,
No, I really appreciate you coming and spending your time, and enjoy the rest of your quarantine.